Thank you, Professor Barbara. This next segment is actually on the Q&A. We do have some questions that learners posed over the past few weeks, but just raise your hands if you wish to ask any questions. Our lovely assistants at the back of the hall will just come to you. Oh, right in front here. Thank you. Awesome. This is amazing. We already have questions up front. Give me a moment. The gentleman at the back, thank you so much. Maybe you can identify yourself, just your name, and then pose your question, please. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Barbara, for your wonderful sharing. Yeah, I'm Ken Hui. I'm a teacher. We'd like to hear from you a bit more on, you talk about retrieval practice as one of like the cornerstone for learning. Could you share, is there any generative AI tools that you would recommend that will aid teachers in implementing retrieval practice in our classrooms?
It just so happens that I have some slides that could show that.
Great.
So I want you to vote which one of these is the best way to learn. Is it rereading? How about highlighting or underlining? Okay, we got a few. How about retrieval practice? Okay. And how about concept mapping? There's still concept mappers in there. Really, the concept mapping people have been so good at getting into educational schools, and no one actually went and checked. They came out. See, another of my research areas is in pathologies of altruism. That is like, you have good intentions about something, but you don't look at the outcomes. So it's sort of an example of the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So a lot of educators have taught about this, but nobody ever went and checked until Jeff Karpicki and his colleagues went and published a paper in Science in 2012 that kicked off the revolution of, wait a minute, concept mapping is not so good. So let's look momentarily at retrieval practice, which you are a great audience, you got it, and what's going on with retrieval practice is when you first learn something, it's weak links. When you write concept maps, it's weak links. When you reread, it's weak links, it's even weaker. But when you retrieve it from your own mind, you are strengthening those links. So retrieving it from your own mind is the best way to learn. And remember how I mentioned hundreds of papers? Here we go. Hundreds and hundreds of papers research papers have shown that retrieval practice is by far the best technique. So the question was, though, how can we use generative AI to help expedite, to do retrieval practice? So I'm going to give you a momentary deep dive into one flashcard companies, but investigate others. The one I'm going to do a deep dive into is called I Do Recall. And I Do Recall is, if you look right down below, it says groups on the upper left-hand side. And you can create a group for your class and then just ask them to make flashcards to share with the class. But what does this do? Let me make sure I've got my sound turned off. And, okay, there we go. Okay, so if you look at this, this is called I Do Recall. And then you can, if you look over there on the right, you can load an electronic document, like a PDF or something, onto this app. You can tag it. So for example, I tag it as generative AI. Then I've uploaded my document, and what I can do is go and see on the upper right hand, see where it says AI? You press that button, and it will create retrieval practice questions for all the all the information that's on that page. And it just does it for you automatically. And they're really helpful and good retrieval practice questions. Or you can go and select a sentence that has information that you want to get. You press the AI button, and it will magically pick out the key idea of that sentence, ask you a question on it, and create a flashcard. So then you can go and practice with those linked recalls. So they're flashcards that are still linked to whatever the original source was. What do transformer networks learn to predict? They predict long-range dependencies. So you can test yourself, grade yourself. And then what's kind of cool is you can also go to YouTube, for example, and use their scripts to generate flashcards. You can look at the statistics of what you've done, and it's a really nice system. So generative AI can be used to help improve how we learn and not just help learners skip over what they're supposed to be learning. So very good question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think I have a second question from the gentleman. Maybe I get you to identify.
Thank you. So my name is Justin. 2 comments, 1 question. First comment, Team Claude, woo! Second comment, I find it really interesting that teachers have been found to work really well with generative AI because we're used to guiding intelligence in ways that other professions aren't used to. Many people tend to use AI as a search box, and that's just the wrong way to work with it. And finally, the question, I was super interested in the part where you talk about the relationship between neuroscience and AI development, and they're called neural nets for a reason. But since the transformer has essentially catalyzed this whole new generational movement in computer science, has there been anything that has been learnt that is now applicable in neuroscience from that massive benefit of attentional modeling?
There are so many things that are being learned that it is really difficult for me to keep up with it. We're beginning to learn that the brain categorizes information in an extremely high-dimensional mathematical space. And we actually don't even have the math yet that helps us understand how the brain is creating concepts and how it is semantically structuring what it's doing. There is so much learning that is happening right now that it's impossible for any one person to keep up, but there's a lot of great new work that's coming out. So you're on Team Claude too. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much. I know we also have people in the overflow room. I'm going to invite people in the overflow room to also pose questions. But meanwhile, can I have... okay, so I see... okay, so the gentleman at the back, please.
Hi, my name is Kenneth. I've noticed the slide that was right at the beginning, and that is artificial intelligence will not overtake humans, but those who know artificial intelligence will overtake those who don't. But I'm just curious, maybe I've watched too many movies like Matrix and the question is very simple. Can artificial intelligence, as it is now, be creative to create something out of nothing, as compared to being innovative, using whatever we have and to adapt it to situations? And that's one of the questions. Can it be creative?
I have a small working memory, so let us address part 1 first.
Sorry. So the part 1 is it creative?
Okay, so let's just step back. Humans have made a fetish out of creativity. It's like, wow, that's the only thing humans can do. So now the creative things are arising out of generative AI. They're like, well, no, let's redefine what we mean by creative. The fact of the matter is there is a bias on the part of humans to look at anything that comes out of AI as being, well, it still isn't really creative like we humans are. How are humans creative? I have slides. So let us look.
I'm beginning to wonder if the participants here kind of know what slides you have.
And I'm very happy to share my slides as well. If you just have them, and I'm happy to share. And if you use them with your students, it will really, just a little bit here and there, just-in-time learning. Can you imagine that students will have 12 to 16 years of education, and they'll have like 60,000 hours in front of teachers, and we never give them any classes on how to learn effectively. It's mind-boggling. But you in Singapore are visionaries for the world, so hopefully you can, you'll be implementing within school systems. How do you learn effectively? So let's talk about working memory, long-term memory, and octopuses, because this does relate to creativity, as you will see. And so working memory, you know what that is. It's something you're holding temporarily in mind. Long-term memory is, so I like to model working memory as an octopus because you can only hold a certain amount of information. Conventionally, it's thought that learners can hold about 4 pieces of information, so I call it a quadrupus. But if it was in Singapore, I would have a full octopus with 8 people with 8 arms, because they're very good at holding information memory. But long-term memory is kind of like a set of lockers that's scattered throughout your neocortex. And within those lockers are sets of neural links. So when you're learning something, you are creating those sets of links. And once you've created the links, you can put them in long-term memory, and then later, when you need those sets of links, you can kind of reach out and grab the information from long-term memory, and you can use it. So this brings me to my younger daughter, Rachel. So sometimes people will ask me, how did you create the massive open online course, Learning How to Learn for Virtually Nothing? Use your family members for bit parts. They will work so cheap. They will work for food. So I asked Rachel, she had recently learned how to drive. So I asked her to model what it felt like for her when she was first learning to back up a car. So watch Rachel's little face as she's backing up the car. Well, you can't do it because it's kind of sticking a little bit. And there she goes. She backs up into the ditch. Sorry about that. There's a little bit of noise there. But she's confused. She's looking back and forth, trying to figure out how to back up the car. It's really hard to learn to back up a car. But once she learned to back up a car, see, there she is. She has a heavy cognitive load as she's trying to back up that car, and no arms on her attentional octopus are available for anything else. So once she learned to back up the car, all she has to do is think, I want to back up the car. And she has a light cognitive load. She can kind of offload it to those automatic links, and she's got other arms available, so she can think about things like, are my seatbelts fastened, or what's playing on the radio. So when our students take tests, we don't want them to just have the same problem that we've given them before. We want them to approach the material we're using in a somewhat creative way. And what we expect our students to be able to do is they sort of hop forward to take the test. And as they're taking the test, they're reaching into long-term memory, and they are creatively combining information they already know. Every part of creativity involves not just, some magical creation out of the blue. It involves recombining knowledge that we already have in novel, creative ways. And that's what we want students to do on tests. Incidentally, let's say that a student studies without using retrieval practice. So they don't use retrieval practice, and they sit down to a test, and suddenly they realize there's no sets of links there. And you need to have that knowledge in order to be able to be creative. So what is ChatGPT doing? For us humans, we have on average 4, or in Singapore, 8 arms of working memory, 8 things that we can hold. But ChatGPT and generative AI has thousands. So it can work as a creative partner for you that allows you to have, extend the number of arms that you can creatively recombine things. So that's why I tell people, please join the AI revolution.
Thank you very much for the question. I think it's wonderful. We will take one more question from the overflow room because they have been up there, right? And listening in as well. If you're okay, just one last question.
Hopefully it won't go to slides.
Well, this one is an interesting one. The concepts shared today, are they more suitable for neurotypical learners? How can we use Gen AI to help neurodivergent students?
Oh, okay. This is a great question. Now, what I want to make clear, remember when I talked about the automatic system with the basal ganglia and the declarative system with the hippocampus? It turns out that, for example, students with dyslexia or subclinical dyslexia, their automatic system doesn't work real well. And what that means is they have difficulty looking at, for us, neurotypical more people, we can look at words and string together the letters and we can make out the letters. But for someone with dyslexia, a page is a blur because they don't have that good automatic ability to learn what a letter is and gradually start feeling familiar with whatever is they're trying to read. So what can happen with a person with dyslexia, you might say, okay, they have a problematic automatic system. But why are there Nobel Prize winners with dyslexia? It's because, think about it this way. Let's say that I have damage to my right knee. Well, there's a kickboxer who is very famous who has damage to one knee. So what has he done? He's developed the other leg incredibly well. So he's got incredible ability with the other leg because he's compensated for the weakness of the right leg. And similarly, in the brain, if one system doesn't work very well, the other system can actually get more powerful. And it can do things sometimes, and they don't know why, those with dyslexia can look at a pattern of, say, an image coming in from medicine, and they can instantly detect patterns and make diagnoses that other people are just like, that's just a picture. They can't see it. So likewise, so that's with dyslexia. With when you have autism, it can impact either that automatic system or the hippocampal system. So it can impact one or the other. For example, some of those with autism have incredibly powerful, as it seems, automatic systems. So they're able to look at a Rubik's Cube, play with it a little bit, and boom, they've learned how to do it. And that is solved by that automatic system. So how can generative AI help with these different things? It can with these different conditions, it can provide practice materials that particularly help a student. Like, we would never ask a student who is visually impaired to just read more because it'll strengthen that system. No, you have to build off other systems, the auditory systems. Similarly, with those who are neuroatypical, you want to build off the system that works. So what generative AI can do is help create materials that cater to the system that really does work well. Really interesting question. Thank you.